Welcome to this special edition of Charts This Week. And I'm proud to say that my book, Cloud Charts, has actually arrived in, so we're now shipping Cloud Charts. It's in full colour, hardback, all the charts in full colour. It's actually a joy to hold it. So I thought I'd just give you a quick run through because I've spent a lot of time going through Cloud Charts, and I'm glad to finally say that there's a book on it because people have always been asking, where can I find out more about it? And I just want to sort of step you through, but also looking at the US stock market while we do that. So the first thing that we start with in the book is the history of where Cloud Charts came from, and we do explore right throughout the book about how they work, why they work, not just how they're constructed, but how you actually interpret them as well. And I start off on the basis that you may not have a lot of knowledge of technical analysis, and it's always a good refresher to go back to the basics. And we start with Dow theory and very much the idea of lower lows and lower highs being a downtrend, and here we suddenly saw that we had higher highs than the previous, and so we know we've got an uptrend. It's fairly obvious when you know it, and you know it when you see it, but the beauty of the cloud is it actually highlights it, and we'll look at that in a moment. And then we go on to look at things like moving averages, because the way that moving averages are constructed are very similar to the way the cloud construction is done. So if you don't understand how moving averages work, then you're probably not going to understand clouds very well. And so we look at how to establish the right period and what moving averages look like. And in fact, this is quite an interesting chart as it happens. This is the monthly chart of the S&P 500 with the moving averages 9 and 21 on, and we see that we've got a cross on these two averages, so quite interesting on that basis. And then we look at indicators, because there's a real obsession with indicators. We talk about them on Charts This Week quite a lot. They're great when the market's ranging, but when it's trending, the indicators will always tell you that you're in an overbought zone. In an uptrend, it keeps telling you you're overbought. In a downtrend, it keeps telling you you're oversold. But in sideways markets, indicators look great, and we do try and help you resolve that in the book. And then, of course, I can't help but to have a chapter in there about point and figure. Many of you will know point and figure developed by a head of technical analysis, Jeremy Duplessis, who covers it in his book. What we see is the relationship between point and figure charts and cloud charts and how they often confirm one another. So a really sort of simple guide to point and figure is in the book so that you can actually use it in unison with cloud charts, because we do argue that you really shouldn't use these charts only on your own. Personally, I've reached a point where if I had to choose one chart, I would probably choose the cloud chart. Point and figure would probably be the next one because of all the trends and targets. And candlestick charts are an integral part of the cloud chart, and as a result there's a chapter on candlesticks, and in fact I've marked the bearish engulfing patterns here. This is the weekly chart. It was quite an interesting exercise to go back through all the textbooks and relearn candlesticks. It's amazing when you have to write about something how you have to articulate it. It really gets you remembering all the techniques, and now I spot a bearish engulfing almost immediately, and in fact we nearly had a couple of other bearish engulfing patterns on the way up, so it's given us great buy signals on this weekly candlestick of the US stock market. So the candles are pretty vital because they're an integral part of the cloud chart. And then of course we get to the cloud chart itself, and in fact there is a chapter on stop losses as well, because if you think about it, the cloud is like a stop loss, and we explore this in the book. And so here we see a stop loss strategy. There's a lot on trading strategies in the book and results of trading strategies, and here we see what happens if you flip from one stop loss to another for the S&P 500 index. And of course the cloud, there's a chapter on construction, but many of you by now know how they're constructed, but it's how you deal with things like intraday breaches, short-term breaches of the cloud. Should you favour the lagging line or the price? When is the signal actually given? We deal with that in a lot of detail. And this is a daily chart in the S&P, so it was telling you the US stock market was a buy back in March, April time. And then if we look at the weekly chart on the S&P, this has been incredibly reliable. It gave you a sell signal in 2000, a buy signal in 2003, a sell signal in 2008. It has been late because of the steepness of this recovery, but as we're now making new highs and we're through the cloud, we have been for several weeks, we are actually in bullish territory on the US stock market, and many of you still find that quite hard to believe. And then if we go to even the 60-minute chart, and we do deal with a lot of shorter term trading strategies using clouds. If you look at the 60-minute chart, we see how we had a sell in January, a buy in February, and then this is on the US stock market again, and how we've really got this situation where the cloud is giving us support. So really quite key. We know what level the market has to fall through to be a sell. And this dynamic nature of the cloud is probably a lot more useful than trying to work out where the lines of resistance and support are manually. We also look, in the last part of the book, we look at different indicators on clouds. This one is cloud width, and we do see that when we get extreme readings on the cloud width, it tends to be a precursor for a cross or a consolidation. So this has been quite an interesting one, and we explore lots of other indicators on the charts. And then we also look at the trading strategies. One trading strategy in particular has had very effective results, where you take a number of factors into account when you're trading the clouds. And so we kind of proved that it works, and we've run it on big back tests on the US stock market, and the results are all in the book for you to see. So quite a key one there. And the last chapter is on market breadth, cloud breadth, where this is actually the S&P 500. We've crossed into the bullish territory on the weekly. This is actually a line of the stocks that are in their bullish cloud zone. So at the moment, 70% of US stocks in the S&P 500 are above their cloud on the lagging line in bullish territory. So quite an interesting indicator, this one, and part of the market breadth tools that you can apply to the market. So it's been quite an interesting exercise going through and looking at some new groundbreaking areas for the clouds. So really, what I suggest is, you buy a copy. I'm bound to say that, I'm the author. It's on cloudcharts.com, and I'll even sign it for you. If you order it the next day or two, I promise to sit down this week and sign your own copy personally. It's in full colour, and I must say it's quite a joy. It's only just arrived in my hand, so it's quite a joy to have it. That's it for this week. I'll be doing charts this week, for next week as usual, and of course I'll be doing a lot of charts this week with Cloud Charts from here on in. So until next week, happy charting. See you then.